Je vais appeler.
It's a little bit crazy. You're suddenly blurry now. I wonder if anything was real. All our history's hazy, like driving in the pouring rain. Are we in too deep to heal? You tell me that you're sorry, we'll make up tomorrow. Tell me everything you know I wanna hear. I'm trying to be open, but that window is closing. And either way, I need to make it clear before we're leaving here. Before we're leaving here.
I know it ain't easy, but there's something left to hold on to. We can work it through, you don't have to go. There's a future here with me. We'll find the light in a clouded room. Not giving up until you know.
You tell me that you're sorry, we'll make up tomorrow. Tell me everything you know I wanna hear. I'm trying to be open, but that window is closing. And either way, I need to make it clear before we're leaving here. Either way, I need to make it clear before we're leaving here.
And shalom, everyone. Shalom. I want to welcome everyone to the house of the Lost Sheep of Israel. I'm Elder Michael Johnson, which we'll be going through Proverbs today. However, I want to just make sure some people, as we go through Proverbs, as we go through this, I want to make sure that we truly understand what Proverbs is all about. Because a lot of us, we have taken to that book. We read it, and a lot of people recommend you to this book, but we really don't know the essence and the importance of the book. So once we go through here, and as we're going through these books and going through the scriptures piece by piece, it's not a thing to where you just take it, run off with it, and okay, I fulfill this. It's about something you need to meditate on. Think back on it. Look at back what you have done and some of the things that you need to change in your life. This is a journey. Don't look at this life as somewhere trying to get from point A to point B, but you're trying to get to your end goal. So I'm going to invite you over to where we left off at from last week. We're going to look at Proverbs chapter 2. We're going to look at verse 17. And I want you to really pay attention to what's going to happen here. But also, don't look at a lot of this stuff as most people try to look at someone else. You try to look at family members. You try to look at your wife, your husband, your cousins, your brothers, your sisters, your nieces, nephew, your children. Don't do that. Look at these scriptures for you. What do you need to do to change you? Not what do they need to do to change according to what you believe. So we're going to look at this, and we're going to be going back and forth on some of these things. But we're going to look at chapter 2, verse 17 in Proverbs. It says, which forsake the guide of her which forgetteth the covenant of her God. To tell you in a better way, to tell you this in a better way, because it's telling you really more straightforward, because the end of that was a full thought, and it started another thought. However, I want you to look at it this way, because it says, which forsaketh the guide of her youth and forgetteth the covenant of God. I don't want you to see it that way. We got to still look at it that way, no matter what. But I want you to see something and get the understanding of what we really getting into. This here is, you don't want to forsake the Spirit of God. Many of us have done that. We have forsaken the Spirit of God, and we shouldn't be doing that. I'm going to show you, let's go back up to verse 6. I want to just show you something to where we're going to get down and we're going to start digging into this scripture text and see some of what it's saying. It says, for the Spirit of God giveth wisdom. Out of his mouth cometh knowledge and understanding. That's something you don't want to forsake. You don't want to forsake that. However, it's telling us here, many of us going to forsake that. Many of us is going to forsake that. Because with that come discretion, which will preserve us on what we need to be doing. Because if we use discretion, now we can sit there and we can preserve ourselves, but we won't be having this forward thinking. Actually, let's go back up a little bit. And let's look at this a little bit more deeper as we go down. So it says, he keepeth the path of judgment, doctrine, and teachings, and preserveth the way of his saints. You don't want to, why would we want to do this? He goes on more. Then shalt thou understand righteousness and doctrines and teachings, including equity, yea, every good path. And it says, when wisdom enters into the heart, look where it's going. Including knowledge and pleasant unto the soul, discretion. Again, discretion shall preserve thee, understanding shall keep thee. It's going to get into a lot of serious stuff, but some of us, we have to pay more attention and take more control on what we really want out of life. He's telling, watch what he says. He says, to deliver thee from the way of the evil man, from the man that speaketh forward things, crooked, falsehoods, and perverse things. we have to pay more attention to this. It gets into this. And as we go now, it says, who leave the path of uprightness and walk in the ways of darkness. It says, who rejoice to do evil and delight in forwardness of the wicked, whose ways are crooked and they forward in their path, to deliver thee from the strange woman. See, people take this, and a lot of people take this as a game. A lot of people come and they try to make sure they can get the truth and hold on to it. Many people here is here to get the truth and to truly hold on to it. Not to try to sit there and do something else. But we have a lot of people that sit there and just floating through and stop by and, oh yeah, won't tell you what, yeah, I know that, and they keep moving. But they don't know how to deliver from this strange woman. Is why it had to work last week and why these go so clear together. Because it says, even from the stranger that flattereth with her words, which forsake the guide of her youth. And that God is your God. So for the Spirit of God who can deliver you from this one, we are forsaken. Now we can kind of more see seriousness in it. Because this is the problem, and we're going to get into a lot of different aspects of this. We're going to start understanding a lot more on the foundation to where I can show you her, but then it's up to you to what you're going to do with the information that's given to you to see that you're going to educate yourself to change lifestyles. Let's look at this strange woman. So we're going to go to Revelation chapter 17. We're going to pick it up at verse 4. Revelation chapter 17, and we're going to look at verse 4. It says this. Actually, it went out. Let me pull this again. And we're going to go back and try to highlight it again. Revelation chapter 17, picking up at 4. It says, and the woman was arrayed in purple. Actually, I need to unhighlight this. Let me unhighlight this. I apologize. Because what I want to do is understand a few things. And so we're going to unhighlight this, because then we're going to go and highlight certain things. So it says, and the woman was arrayed in purple, including scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones, pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. We need to really unpack that part to where we can find out, because this is talking about this woman here. It's talking about this strange woman here. This woman here is talking about this strange woman here, which have gotten some of us to forsake the guide of our youth and forgotten the covenant of our God. That's why this is so important. And it's saying it was arrayed in purple. And I don't know why they keep jumping up. So we need to really unpack a lot of these things to where we can get into and really figure out what's going on here. Because this strange woman, and most people will say you can go in many different church buildings and these places that not teaching you about God, but they calling this God, but they're not telling you the warnings that you need to know as you on your journey in life. And if you don't know what your journey is on life, you can run into this strange woman. This strange woman can get you and do you in, and you never know, and you never seen it coming. So this woman, she's arrayed. But arrayed, most people going to always say than how they was dressed. That's not what this is saying here. Arrayed is one who is preparing either for attack or defense. Every now and then you see it's being adorned. But in 99% of the time, anytime you see in scripture, it's either under attack or it's in a defense. Always. Arrayed. So it's prepared to attack. So it's saying the woman was arrayed. She was prepared to attack in purple. Wow. We need to unpack all this, because it's the only way we can catch this strange woman. So we need to look at purple a little bit more seriously. We need to understand what purple is talking about more seriously. Because purple, to achieve these colors, to achieve the color of purple, is unique. To achieve this, it takes two different colors to do this. Two different colors to do this. And one of them is blue. But why is it blue? Because blue stands for learned. Blue stands for learn. And they need to mix that into that. And it's necessary to render certain colors. It renders the other one color that you use this is red. And you get purple. But red is what? Sin. Doing sinful things. That's why this is there. So if we keep that in mind, I want you to keep that in mind. Don't change. Stay dogmatic on this. Say, well, I'm not going to change. I'm going to focus on this purple. And if I know for purple, the only way you can get purple is by blue, by something that's learned and it's red to get this color. That should interest you quite a bit. This is why. When you see this and it says in scarlet color and decked in gold and precious stone, see all this and having a golden cup in her hand, a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. So this is telling us a lot of stuff. But it's telling us everything we need to know. In fact, we're going to look at Isaiah chapter 1 and verse 18. It says this, and this will help clear up a few things, but we're going to get more down into it because we're going to look at Isaiah chapter 1. We're going to pick it up at verse 18, and it says this. It says this here. It says, come now, let us reason together. Though your sins be as scarlet, red, they shall be as compared white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, again, here we go. It's telling you exactly what it is. They shall be as wool. That is interesting. See, because the scarlet color and crimson color is things that is pumped. And they use those colors to where they can array people such as kings. To where they come up with that one color and they use to get purple, they have to use this certain dye to get that color. But the filthiness and abominations is full of what? It's going to tell us something here. It's going to tell us something even more. Because as it's talking about, it's full of abominations, filthiness and fornications. Are you with me? It's so interesting here because I'm going to go up a little bit and I want to show you something. And we want to sit there and look at it a little bit more here. Actually, it's not right here, but we're going to run into it. Actually, it's right here in verse 3. I want to show you something to where we're going to get some better understanding together as we move through. In verse 3, it says, and he was carried away in the spirit into the wilderness and saw a woman sit on a scarlet colored beast, full of names of blasphemy. This is interesting. Full of names of blasphemy. And this is why it's getting so important. It says, having 7 heads and 10 horns. this is scary. The reason why this is scary, and it's not telling us something that's crazy, but it's telling you something and it's opening a story for you to where we can understand the story. And once we understand the story, we understand what the punchlines are, and we understand what the moral of the subject is. Because 10 horns is talking about 10 generations right here. Blasphemy having 7 horns and 10 generations long is what this is talking about. And then you see, and including, that's why this is there, including the woman was arrayed, she was prepared to attack. Now you see what's going on here. Now it's starting to unravel. It's this strange woman. It's the strange woman. Let's unpack a little bit more, because we got to do it piece by piece to where we can get this understanding. But all these things, keep in mind, what we're talking about, these is going down into 10 generations long. But we're going to see how long this is and what's happening. In Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 1, Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 1, we're going to get a little bit more. We're going to pack a little bit more information to join all this together. It says, and he was wounded in the stones. This is telling us even a lot more. So we need this. We need this. Why? Because it says he was wounded. We need to know what that is also. We already know what this is talking about. If not, we're going to find out what it is anyway. And this here is even more serious. And we got to find out what these are to help us out. So it's saying he was wounded in the stones and have his privy member cut off. Shall not enter into the congregation of the Spirit of God. Wow. So we need to know what this stuff is. Because whatever this is, and if it's things in privy and things is cut off, you cannot enter into the congregation of the Spirit of God. You can't be part of his kingdom. This is what this is saying. And over there it's talking about this blasphemy having down through 7 generations. And this woman is prepared to do whatever it takes to make sure you don't get in. Now this is starting to make a lot more sense. This is why it's so important while we looking at Proverbs, which is, we understand these are similitudes. Why we need to understand this is so important now. I believe I have your attention now. Let's look at this a little bit better. It's because when it's talking about wounded in the stones, and we talking about like sapphires and the sardis, the topaz, the diamond, the onyx, the juniper, like the emerald, the carbuncle, and the beryl, and the pearls. These are wounded. That's what it's talking about. They're wounded in the stones. He talks in parables from the beginning to the end. It's always in a parable, and we have to unravel it. Meaning wounded, when we look at this, it's injured, crushed. It's compressed into a violent nature, but it had to be shaped or in a bad condition. But it was crushed, this stone. And even his privy, so these are talking about male organs being removed. Don't have nothing to do with the eunuchs, but people teach you that eunuchs is this, and eunuchs don't have nothing to nothing to do with castration. Absolutely nothing. We have teachings on this that shows you what's going on. But this is on the account of ones going into other nations, is what this is talking about right here. Because many of us have done this, and why this blasphemies in these 10 generations in dealing with this strange woman, and she's prepared for battle to do us in. We need to see what this is. Verse 2, because it gets a little bit more serious. It says, a bastard shall not enter into the congregation of the Spirit of God, even to his 10th generation. Shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord. Even to the 10th generation is not going in. So those wounded stones is not going in. Have private members cut off. It's not coming in. You have many people who have went into these strange women and bore children to them. Yeah, you can sit there and think about it however you want. And you have done this, and even though once you know what the truth is, you still continue to do it. That child is a bastard. Women, vice versa, if they went into you, no, you're a bastard because that's where they're coming from. That's the strange spirit, the strange woman that can get into you. And many of us forsaken that. Now it's starting to make sense. But it says this to where we get more deep into it, to where we can understand a little bit more. And we're going to see more because when it's talking about bastards, he gives us some other understandings to help us out. Because he's going to say something here. Actually, I want to tell you what, let's go somewhere real quick. We're going to go to Zechariah. We're going to look at chapter 9 in verse 6. And then I want you to write this down later for homework to where you look it up. In Zechariah chapter 9, picking up at verse 6. And it tells us this here. It says, "And a bastard shall dwell in Ashdod." I want you to look up Ashdod. Let's go outside the book. Let's Google Ashdod. We're going to Google Ashdod. If I get time, I will even do it for you and show you what Ashdod is talking about. Because many of us don't know what Ashdod is. And I'm trying to get this set up because I actually show it to you. Because this is the importance of what's happening. And let's see here. I'm trying to sit there and see if I can get it here. And I think I do have it in time. And we do have it in time. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to push you over to Ashdod to where we can see it. Because I want you to really clearly get what Ashdod is talking about. So we're looking here, but I'm going to put in Ashdod. I want to put in Ashdod because I want to make sure we're all sitting on the same page. So it's saying that the bastard should dwell in Ashdod, but we need to know what Ashdod is. So we put in Ashdod. And we click it. And even with Wikipedia, we don't have to look at that. But if you look over here, you'll see where Ashdod is talking about the city of Israel, which is actually Jerusalem. That is Ashdod, always have been. So we know what Ashdod is. And it tells you, you can look at it all day long, and it's going to always tell you about Ashdod. This is Ashdod. So when you clear and you look at Ashdod, you see where it's talking about. This is clearly in Jerusalem. So it's not rocket science on where the Ashdod is. But the Bible, as it does, it speaks in a parable for us to know what it's speaking of to where we can understand it, what's happening. So as this is going on, it says, "And a bastard shall dwell in Ashdod," which is a bastard there right now. And it says, "And I will cut off the pride of the Philistines." And the Philistines is right there in Gaza, which is right down the street from Ashdod. And you see that's happening today. The same thing is happening today. So when you look back over here at Revelation chapter 17, verse 4, when we sitting there seeing, it says, "And the woman was arrayed," so it was prepared, and it was ready to attack, in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. So we really look at that, and when you go back over here to Deuteronomy, we're going to pick it up at verse 3, which has become more interesting. And it says the Amorite or the Moabites shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord. So they're not going to enter in. And it says even until their 10th generation. So in the 10th generation, they're not going to enter in, and they shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord forever. So they're never going to be part of it. A bastard will never come in. So I don't care what happens, what you do, whatever you say, you can sit there and talk all what you want to talk. Bastards will never come in. People can sit there and tell you, no, I'm this, no, I'm that, no, I'm going, no. Why would you argue with something that's already factual in the Bible? That don't make any sense. Unless you have forsaken the God of your youth, which a lot of us do, and forget the covenant of our God. Because he said he only came to Israel. These are the interesting things that is going on here. But it gets better here as we go through here. It gets better here. And we know these abominations are there. We know these abominations are there. And many people have taken upon themselves to where we have taken upon many, many, many strange people in our lives. We have many of our people who are black in here have sitting there decided to switch out. And taking hold to that strange woman. So let's look at this all together. In verse 5 it says this. Actually, I'm going to hold that there. I'm going to hold that there because I want to make sure we understand some stuff here also. So it says, upon her forehead was the name written, was the way written. Was the way written. Mystery. Babylon, the Great. Mystery. Babylon, the Great. This is a hard thing. When you sit there, when we see these things happening, we want to clearly get what's going on, because it's saying upon her forehead was the way written. So on her thoughts, on her way, what she wants us to do, the way she wants us to go, is mystery Babylon the Great. But we need to still know what mystery it is, because mystery don't mean nothing but secret. So it says secret, confusion, the Great. And that's what she's good at doing this. But then it says mother of harlots. So she's the spirit of prostitutes, because harlots don't mean nothing but prostitute. And she's the mother of prostitutes, including abominations of the earth, including the things that is abhorred, the things that is loathsome, the thing that is lewd, the things that is detestable things in the earth. That's what this is saying. We have taken hold to this. And long as we continually take hold to this, and many of us have already done this, if we have taken hold to this, and the main catch with this is here. And when you look at Luke chapter 4 and verse 7, it says this, and it makes it really clear. It says the same thing. Mystery, Babylon, this woman arrayed in purple, it says, if thou wilt therefore worship me, all shall be thine. All shall be thine. If you want to commit fornication, do it. If you want to commit adultery, do it. If you want unclean, do it. Do it. Because you have forsaken the God of your youth, and now you have forgotten the covenant of God, and now you have taken on this secret of this whore. Why do you think when a lot of these athletes, they'll finish up after they finish their game, and when they finish up, they think that they the bomb, because they got all these women in the back waiting in the hallways. To all these women, they get to the hotels, all these women out there, they don't have to say 3 words to them, and these women will lay down with them. in hopes to get pregnant, in hopes to be married. Mystery Babylon. The spirit of prostitutes. Because we have forgotten the covenant of our God. All right here. Let's look at it a little bit more. Because we can't get around it. It says, and I saw the woman who, the mystery of this secret of this woman who was full of blasphemy, and also she had the abomination and filthiness of her fornication was all there. This same woman was drunken with the life, the blood, the life of the saints, including the life of the martyrs of salvation. You thought you had something and you didn't, because you chasing the wrong thing. Including, I saw her and I wondered with great admiration. This is interesting. This is interesting. This is why it says here, when we go back over here in verse 12, we got to look back over here and look at it. Let's start at verse 11. It says, discretion shall preserve thee, understanding shall keep thee. How can this do this? And we done took hold to this woman. We done took hold to this woman. This strange woman. And it says this. It says, to deliver thee from the way of evil men, the evil man, and the man that speaketh forward things. All this I give to you. All you have to do is worship me. And it's going to crush you, making you forget what's going on. It's going to wound those stones. And when it's saying wounded, it compressed with violence out of the natural shape or condition that it was originally in. What it's telling you right here. He that is wounded in the stones or have his privy members cut off shall not enter into the congregation of the Spirit of God. Yeah, many of us out there, we tied to these women. He shows you a physical representation of this. He shows you a physical representation of this. And we sit there and say, well, no, I know better. I know better. But no matter what, you doing it in that child, in you, will never, ever enter into the congregation of the Spirit of God. Including, even up to the 10th generation, they still won't enter in. See, this is hard for some people to look at. Some people are hard to take. Let's look at something. I want to show you a little bit more here. Let's go to Proverbs and let's look at another section and keep that one over there. We're going to go to chapter 7 and look at verse 26. Proverbs chapter 7, verse 26. And it says, let not thy heart decline her ways, go not astray in her path. Go not astray in her path. It says, for she have cast down many wounded. Wow. It shows up again. Shows up again. She has cast down many wounded. These wounded stones, she crushed them out of the natural shape that they're in. I don't care how we look at this. How you flip it, how you script it. See, people will sit there and say this is a hateful way in teaching. How are you going to sit there and say it's a hateful way in teaching and the Bible's telling you this right up front? You can't deny it. Can't get away from it. But people will sit there and want what they want. Well, I have a right to love who I want to love. I have a right to live the life I want to live. If I want to live with this person, I'm going to live with this person. If I want to be with that person, I'm going to be with that person. He said, yeah, that's fine. You should not enter into the congregation of the Spirit of God forever. It's easy. Okay, you do this, I'm going to do this. It's simple. It's a simple analogy. I have cast down many wounded. Who? The strange woman. Which we have forsaken the guide. Let's look at it a little bit more. It says her house, telling you, her house is the way to hell, going down into the chambers of death. Her house. All behind one thing. All behind one thing. We chose not to be obedient to the voice of God. And we decided to be obedient to the voice of the strange woman. And her house is going to take us directly to hell. And the hell is the holding place waiting for where he's going to throw all of us at one time into the lake of fire. All behind forgetting the covenant of God. People, well, what about the good news? Yeah, that's your news right there. That is the news right there. In fact, it says this in verse 18. It says, her house inclineth unto death, and her path unto the dead. Is that for us? Yeah, that's for us. Because many of us, no matter what, we're going to be stiff-necked. I don't care what we do, we're going to be stiff-necked. This is telling us what we need to do. This is why it's Proverbs. It's telling us what we need to do, but many of us still not going to do it. We're going to take, yeah, it's cool. But yeah, no, God is not that. God's not like that. You see, it's coming right out of the scriptures. It's coming right out of his scriptures, and better yet, as it's coming out of his scriptures, it's all locked to where you can see it clearly. But we forget everything, because it says we've forsaken the God and forgetteth the covenant of our God. But we inclineth unto death. So we want to listen to death. So that takes us even more so into a deeper place of hell. In Psalms chapter 37, we're going to look at verse 38, Psalms chapter 37 in verse 38. It says, but the transgressors, so it's a bunch of us, shall be destroyed together. That's what I said. He's going to gather us all up in hell, and then he's going to throw all hell and everything in there, just like putting them in the trash bag. Once he got everybody he want in there, he can throw everybody into the lake of fire at one time. Not one at a time. It says, the end of the wicked shall be cut off. But we don't even know how that works. We don't know how that actually even works. So there's something that's better for us to understand it. So I want to make sure we clearly get it and where we can digest it. And some of us can apply it to our lives. I'm gonna go over here to Galatians, to where we can look at it face on. And the only way we can beat something is we face it head on. That's the only way most of us can beat anything. So let's look at this all together. We're going to look at this all together. In Galatians chapter 2, picking up at verse 16. It says, knowing that a man is not justified by the works of the law, but by faith of salvation, anointed one. Really? Even he will have believed in salvation of the anointed one, that we might be justified by faith of Christ of the anointed one, which is the word, and not by works of the law. For by the works of the law shall no flesh be justified. We got to unpack that. Because we unpack it, I know I'm pretty sure we're going to understand what a transgressor is. we unpack that. We're going to understand what a transgressor is. Why a transgressor will be destroyed. A transgressor will be destroyed. That's number one. But seen as a wicked one, because we are not justified by the works of the flesh of the law. That's why he's saying this here. It's saying the man is not. He's not. Actually, let me put this in there again. A man is not justified by the works of the law. Because the works of the law are going to get you killed anyway. We know that in 1 Timothy chapter 1, starting at verse 9. The law was not made for a righteous man. But having faith in a promise made salvation of the anointed one is what you're seeking. But the faith by Yahushua, or salvation, the anointed one, ye have believed in Christ, that we might be justified by faith and not by the works of the law. This is what we got to clearly understand, because now we have to sit there and look at this promise. And the promise, it starts clarifying itself as we go down. It says, but if, while we seek, see what we seek, because we're on this journey, we seek to be justified by Christ, we ourselves are found sinners. Wait a minute. So, if we seek to be justified by Christ, we'll still be sinners. People sitting there like this not making sense. If I'm seeking Christ and then I'm seeking to be justified by Christ, I'm going to still be found a sinner. Yeah. So now everybody, this is not making sense. It makes sense what he's saying, but this is just Paul. But we're going to see what Paul's saying. Because if we seek to be justified by Christ, we ourselves also are found sinners. Is for that reason Christ a minister of sin? No. So the catch becomes, on how Paul laid this out, where's the issue? Because if we seeking, and most people say, well, I'm seeking to be justified by Christ. No, you shouldn't be doing that. That's what Paul's saying. So we need to understand how that works. That's why I said we become transgressors. We're transgressors of the law. See, because what's happening here, when we look at when you're seeking something, we not sitting there saying he's ministering. So that's why I said, is therefore Christ the minister of sin? No, he's not. See, because Christ came here, and we got to keep in mind what seeking is. And we're gonna figure out a few things. We're going to get them all straightened out. We're going to go to Romans and start working this out together. We're going to go to Romans chapter 8. And we're going to look at verse 3. Verse 3 says this. It says, for what the law could not do, that it was weak through the flesh, God sending his own son in the likeness of sinful flesh, and for sin condemned sin in flesh. But we seeking to be justified by Christ in flesh. It's getting a little bit closer, ain't it? Now you see why he's sitting there. Is therefore Christ a minister of sin? No. But you're trying to be justified by the works of flesh. In fact, let's go down a little bit more. It says, for if ye live after the flesh, ye should die. But we were seeking to be justified according to the flesh by Christ. So how can we be justified by Christ according to the flesh? And if we're doing it by the flesh, we're still going to be found a sinner by Christ. Makes no sense. It makes no sense. Because we still doing works of the flesh, which you're going to always be found a sinner every time. Because it's telling you, so if we live after the flesh, ye should die. But if you live through the spirit, mortify the deeds of the body, ye shall live. But we don't do that. We doing it around about another way. We trying to be justified by the works that we doing, and we sitting there saying, okay, now Christ is going to be happy with this, and I'm going to do it according to this way, and Christ is going to put a stamp on it, and we're going to be good. That's the truth. You're lying to yourself. You lying 100% to yourself. Let's look at this all together. It says, for providing I build again the thing which I destroy, I make myself a transgressor. This, actually, let me put this in red. I'm going to put this in red because this is a little bit more what we need. This is a little bit more what we need. Why? Because for if I build again the things which I destroy, if you destroy the works of the flesh by mortifying the deeds of the flesh, why in the world are you going to build them up again? Can you answer me that? You done came out of falsities, and now you're trying to build up falsities over with the truth. I'm telling you, you can't make this up. You were doing something that you were doing in another place, but now you try to go to the truth, and now you're trying to institute what it is that was over there that you were doing. Now you're trying to do it over here, and you're thinking he's going to be justified by that. And he's sitting there saying, so therefore, since you have learned the truth, now is Christ a minister of sin based on what you just brought over, and now you saying this is going to be good for God, and God sitting there saying, no, I didn't do that. God forbid. No. Oh, no. You have to mortify the deeds of the flesh. Oh, no. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that. That's what you was doing where you came from. You were just doing that. So he's a minister of sin? No, God forbid. If you build again the things which I destroy, he destroyed the flesh. That's why he said that. I showed you Romans 8:3. What is wrong with us? What is wrong with us? What is truly wrong with us? We sit there, and many of us will sit there and say, we have found the truth, and no matter what, we will still go back and grab something that we used to do and still bring it over here, put a little twist on it, and then still think he's going to accept it. You can't tell me we don't do it because we do it. Oh, I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to do this. Oh, yeah, we're going to do this. Well, what's wrong with this? He just destroyed it, and now you're coming over here, and now you're trying to build it again. That's why he says, for if I build again the things which I destroy, and if you destroy the flesh, why are you still trying to do the works of the flesh? It's craziness. It's craziness. And people said, no, I'm not doing it. Talk to them. All you got to do is talk to somebody who say they're in the truth, and I promise you, many of them, within 10, 15 minutes, they're going to bring up something that they were doing somewhere else, and then they try to implement it, but then they try to put the truth on it and say, God going to accept this, and he don't. And he don't. Let's look at something. This is almost well, we consistently we do this. In Genesis chapter 2 and verse 16, it says this, and it's making pretty clear here. Genesis chapter 2, we're going to look at verse 16. It says, "In the spirit of thy God commanded the man, saying, if of every tree of the garden thou mayest eat freely." You see what he said? Every tree in the garden you can eat freely. You can eat them freely. Don't have no problems. You can eat it. Hey, to the full. Knock yourself out. But he says this in verse 17. He says, "But the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt not eat of it, for in that day thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die." And guess what? You got a lot of people say that God planted that. A lot of people will tell you that God planted. You have a lot of people who is of the truth and will say God did that. Let's go back a little bit and get some understanding here. We're gonna go back a little bit. We're gonna go back to verse 8. And it says, "And the Spirit of God planted a garden in eastward in Eden, and there he put the man." That's where he put us at. And he said, "Whom he had formed, and out of the ground made the Spirit of thy God to grow every tree that is pleasant to thy sight, including good for food." That's a full thought there. So whoever tells you that he put that tree of knowledge of good and evil in the garden, you're a liar. You're lying on God. He's telling you right there. So he's saying that the tree of knowledge of good and evil, that it was good for food. Because he said they can eat everything in the garden that was good for food. But he says this. It says, after that forethought, it says the tree of life was in the midst of the garden, including the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Did it say he planted it? The enemy planted it. The enemy planted it because Christ told you through Yahushua himself. He told you himself. And we didn't get it. Actually, let me show it to you. Let me show it to you the way we'll know it. We're going to go to Matthew chapter 13. We'll know it chapter 13. Matthew chapter 13. We're going to look at something. Matthew 13. And we're going to go to verse 24 and look at it a little bit closer. It says, "Another parable put forth unto them, saying." So just like he said, he speaks to you in parable, but everybody read the Bible, and so many people read the Bible literal, we don't get it. And he speaks parables. But he says this, "The kingdom of heaven is like unto a man which soweth good seed in his field." We just read it. We just read it. But watch this. But while men sleep, his enemy come and sown tares among the wheat and went his way. He put his own plants out there. But you have people who tell you, God put all that right there. Why? Because no matter what we do, we are always inclined to forget who we have the covenant with. And then as he makes agreements with us, We get the agreement, and we have to sit there and destroy flesh, and we sit there and try to bring all those old things from where we got stuff. We're going to tell you what, we just say it this way. We just do it this way, even though we're in the truth now. Let's do it this way, and he's going to accept it. No, he's not. It's already telling you that. Is God a minister of sin? No. Well, we can change this song. Well, we can take the song, we can put it this way. Because now I know the truth, so now I can make this song this way. Is God a minister of sin? No. No, we're going to tell you what, we'll just sell beef dinners. We'll just sell chicken dinners. Okay. Is God a minister of sin? No. For if ye build again things which I destroyed, we can't even get out. We can't even get out our own way. We can't even get out our own way. I'm telling you, the enemy came and did this. And the same problem we have with, actually, let's go back. Let's go over here. Let's go to Matthew 26. I'm going to show you something. Why Yahushua was saying what he's saying to what he told Peter now. We're going to look at Matthew 26. We're going to look at verse 40. Just go over here. We want to look at something. 26 and 40, it says this. Well, you'll see why he says this. It says, the hour, and it cometh unto the disciple, and he cometh unto the disciples, and findeth them asleep. Just like these dudes over there. And said unto Peter, what could ye not watch with me 1 hour? Why do you think he's saying that? Because you just seen what he did in Matthew 13, 20, 23, 24, and 25. When he sowed seed, which is a seed is the word of God, when he sowed the seed, but while men sleep, see, while men sleep, the enemy can come and sow tares. The enemy can come and sow his tares. Because we could not watch for 1 hour. 1 hour. Could we taken up this strange woman? We have forsaken the guide of our youth. We have forgotten the covenant of our God. We have inclined unto death in her path that leads to death. Is this us? Because she's full of blasphemy. She's full of blasphemy. But many of us, no matter what, I promise you, many people are going to sit there and still try to find other ways to justify something that they have gotten out of. They're going to try to justify it, and they're going to try to add it to what he just did. He says, for if I build again the things which I destroy, and if you destroying the works of the flesh, why in the world are you going to sit there and just try to take something that you just destroyed, and now you're going to try to resurrect it and put it over here? Because you don't forget the covenant of God. It's that simple. So we have a problem. Proverbs, we have a problem. Proverbs is telling us what we need to know. So hopefully, just on that one alone, we'll learn something here as we continually move forward. And the same thing is when we come to the bank, just make sure where we're going to get the some of the little bit more understanding there. You're more than welcome to come to the back, but as always, make sure that your cameras are on and the way you can do it, to where you can wouldn't have no problems back there. Now I do have a waiting room there because for whatever reason we have people all during the week where they'll just come, they'll see the video and they'll just click to go back there. Why they do that, I don't know. So what we doing, we disabling that altogether. And you're going to always see where it's going to be a waiting room always implemented for that reason. Because it comes to a point to where we got to keep doing that. So the only way to rectify it is put a waiting room there to where if they click to go back there, they just be in this waiting room and they'll just be there and then they'll just go away. So hopefully that you have gotten some good understanding from this. Because if we forsake our guide and we forget the covenant of our God, the only reason we forgot it, the only reason we walked away from it is because of what this strange woman is offering. So with that, I hope that we got some understanding there. We'll get a little bit more in the back. So until next time, I say to each and every person, Shalom.